Hey guys, I decided to call this segment Theory Thursdays, and unlike Tutorial Tuesdays, which is more about the electronic side of things, this side is going to be more about music theory and concepts of music and everything similar. So, first, we have to define what music is. Music, according to the dictionary, is the art or science of combining vocal or instrument sounds or both to produce beauty of form, harmony, and expression of emotion. So the definition of music closely ties with emotional impact in the way we respond to music. And then the second definition is kind of silly: vocal or instrumental sound produced in this way. So music is closely associated to sound, emotion, beauty, form, expression. You can interpret it multiple ways, though. With music theory, I had to get the definition from Wikipedia, but in most general sense, it's the study of how music works, and it examines the language and notation of music. It seeks to identify patterns and structures in composers' techniques across within genres, styles, historical periods. In a grand sense, it analyzes fundamental parameters of music, such as that. Broadly, music theory may include any statement, belief, or conception of or about music. So, with that being said, if you believe something is music and you have some type of emotional impact because of that music, it can be considered music. And that emotional response can be negative as well. So, say that you hate dubstep or something, well, it is a pattern, a sequence of notes and sounds, whether they be harmonic or not, and it definitely has a beat to it, and a lot of other songs have a percussive beat, a vocal or instrumental, any one of those, or all of them. Music is very broad. So, with these tutorials, with these theory videos, I'm going to be closely following a book, but I'm going to try to summarize it the best I can. Now, the first chapter of the book has to do with reading music. And since this is more of an electronic type of thing, I'm not going to go over that, but I'll show you a piece of sheet music as an example. Music before electronic stuff and the piano roll and everything came out, it looked like this. Now, I know a lot of people who are basically prodigies in the music world, and they can't read music. It's amazing. And my theory behind that is that, well, we have all this electronic technology out, and we have groups of people working on music, and there might be that one person in the group that's really good at thinking of melodies, but they don't know how to actually write them down in the traditional sense. So that leads me to the next chapter. And I might get back to this someday, if I'm exporting MIDI data from FL Studio into Sibelius or Finale Notepad or some other application that deals with this type of notation, I will get back to it. But for now, I'm going to go over the most basic aspects. So the very first thing I'd like to cover is notes and their rhythms. So one of the most common aspects of music is the rhythm. It has to do with how spaced out the notes are, how close or far apart they are over a period of time. So as an example, on this piano roll, we see a long note here. Since it covers the entire measure, we refer to this as a whole note. Now I have a couple more notes here that are a little closer, and as the notes get closer together, and I'm going to define this really loosely here, sorry, but as they get closer together, we define them with a smaller fraction. So this would be known as a quarter note. If we were to extend it, if it covered half the measure, we would refer to it as a half note. The smaller ones on measure 4 here, these are eighth notes. These are 16th notes, and these little ones are 32nd notes, and so on. As it gets smaller, we define them like that. Now, there are other ones in between, like 12th, 24th, But once I get into time signature and more of the definitions, I will define those more specifically. But the goal of this first video is to try to get people off their feet and basically get them to be able to create something simple by the end of the first video. That's sort of what I strive for. So if we play this, you can hear that the whole note's really long. So you can hear that the rhythm gets faster as the notes are closer together. And you can see the same thing here with the little shaker. This is a quarter note. These are eighth notes, and these are 16th notes. And I guess I might as well move on. I'll come back and define things more specific, but I just want to get people off their feet for this. So next thing will be intervals. Now, if you see an interval between the two of the closest notes possible, that is known as a half step. It's also known as a semitone, and it's also known as a minor second. Now, to beginners, that might sound really silly. Why do we have 3 definitions? But each of them are equally important, and it'll become more and more obvious as you get more into music and the creation of it. So, right here I have various intervals. An interval of 4 semitones. This interval is 4 semitones apart because if you count the number of keys between 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 4 semitones. That is known as a major third. Now I have to define something else first. Major typically means happy sounding. I need to look up a better definition for major, but this is a major third. If you hear like major scale, it typically means like it's the scale that sounds happy. That's how I've always learned it. But so if we play it, now it may not just sound happy to you, but if you had a whole song based around that interval and the major scale, it'll generally sound happy. Now this is a minor third. Sounds a little sadder, right? So now these next 2 intervals are the perfect fourth and perfect fifth. If we listen to them. Now you might have your own opinions. You might think, oh, those both sound happy or they both sound sad, but to me they sound kind of neutral. Now this one's a perfect octave. To define octaves, the way I've always thought of them is that the next note to sound similar to the first one, that's a complete octave. So if you hear this note, they sound really similar, right? Except the next one's higher than the first, and that's because the one above has double the frequency of the first one. So if we play it, it sounds more of like a unison type thing than the other intervals. So there are other intervals in between, and you can probably fill in the gaps by now. This is a minor sixth. This is a major sixth. And these just kind of fill in the gap. This is a major second, and this is a minor second. I might create a graph or some visual representation of all this because it's a lot better. Now, if you have... It's a lot better than me like explaining these like this, so I'll probably make like a Tumblr, like a website on a Tumblr or something, because I've figured out how to do that now. But now you have these intervals. This is still a minor second. It's still 1 semitone apart. It's just that it's going the other way. So this interval is also a perfect fourth. It's not a perfect fifth. It's not a perfect fifth because the G is down under the C, and well, that's a bad pun, but we define it as just the distance between the two here. So it's a perfect fourth as well. You can probably play around with this and create some cool sequence of notes or perhaps a song, but unfortunately I think I've gone way over the time that I wanted to for that stuff, so I'm gonna have to cut off the video here, and I will continue with scales and more structure stuff next time. So I'll see you later.